We are live. Hello, Industry Live. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm ThatKimberly, and my guest and co-host today is
Hey everybody, I'm Steve Gilbert.
Steve
Nice to,
Gilbert.
nice to see everybody.
Yeah, Steve Gilbert's here with me today. And before we jump on our topic about unlocking organizational value through community service, I want to make sure folks know wherever you're watching, whether it's on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter, you can leave a comment, ask a question. If there is a community service project that you did, we want to hear about it. If you have a question about any of the things that Steve and I are talking about today, please leave it in the comments. We definitely want to get to any questions before or after. And if you watch on the replay, make sure you put in hashtag, that's the hashtag sign, along with, or maybe it's two, yeah, hashtag replay and the city that you watched us from. So that will be super helpful. If you tag one of us, if you have a specific question, we will see it if you tag us. If you want to be a guest, I'm going to throw this up there. Email me is just the easiest, Kimberly@marketingdoer.com. That's going to be my plug for us. And if you want to watch any past episodes, you just go to Google, put in hashtag ThatKimberly or hashtag Industry Live, and all the places that we go live and have gone live will come up in the Google feed. So that's without further ado, that's all my my plugs. Let's jump into this conversation, Steve. So
Sounds good.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, the why around, an organization that would want to partner or have these ties with community services.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start, right? Because I think unless you work for a nonprofit organization, which I know there are a number of fantastic nonprofit organizations out there, that is point of why we're having this conversation is how can we support them, right? But if you're like me and you've spent a lot of your time working for-profit organizations, I think there's a magnitude of impacts that community service can have on a for-profit organization. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it starts first and foremost with that word that gets tossed around a lot these days, which is culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think um, you know I think culture's really changed a lot as we've kind of navigated these waters of COVID, and
Yeah.
I think it's like attaching a purpose to why are we in this business, right? And it's not. I don't think it's enough these days for a lot of folks to just accept the fact, like, we're in business to make money. Like, of
Yeah.
course we are. Like, for your nonprofit, of course we're more money around helps pay the bills, helps us all
Yeah.
take care of things. But why do we do these things, right?
Yeah. Especially after COVID, people want more explanation and more whys around what the purpose of an organization is.
I totally agree. And I think, like, you know, for me, culture um, is that sense of community that you have at an organization, of the why we're here. What
Mm-hmm.
why are we here beyond just a paycheck? And I think the cool thing to me about being in the multifamily industry, and I presume there's a lot of folks here that fellow familyers out there. But the cool thing to me is that we really do represent and serve communities that exist within multiple levels of other communities. Whether
Mm-hmm.
you're an apartment building that's existing in a town, a hamlet, a city, a state, a country, or you're a supplier that's serving one of those communities, right? Like, we all have a responsibility to residents and to individuals and to ourselves, who all show up and try to be decent citizens and decent neighbors and decent
Yeah. The
coworkers.
community. It's to the community. It's like not just the four walls of the community, but the community, the city, the state, the community around it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's, you know, I'm obviously come from a marketing background and a branding background. And I think like defining who you are and why you're doing this is really important. So it's not just like we make money by building bigger and better apartment buildings, right? I think like the really successful organizations go a little step further in defining that value proposition, which is we build these communities because we want people who live there to experience X, or to we want, you know, residents to have an unparalleled living experience, could be an example of that, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, coming up with that kind of raison d'etre of like what we're doing, like an understanding how every single, you know, individual that works at that organization supports that cause, which if you do that, if you serve that cause well, then invariably you're going to make money, you're going to make profit, like things are going to take care of themselves. But, you know, defining that first and foremost, I think is a really good place to start when you're looking at, okay, what type of community service initiative are we going to support that helps, you know, support that goal.
Yeah. And I think looking outside the, like, so we have the four walls, right? So if you define your purpose and your why, we'll leave it at, you know, XYZ apartment community, to make it very simple. Or even XYZ company that is selling to a community, finding out their whys is most important, because then they can also figure out, so like for example, shelter. If, you know, they're providing the resident shelter, but what about those who are homeless who don't have that shelter, right? So
Mhm.
partnering with an organization that might, you know, provide that shelter, or might provide the food, that you know, doing even different types of community service projects that are that small, you know, that, you know, collecting cans and things of that sort, around the holidays is a great place to start, but not where you have to just finish and leave it at that, you know.
Yeah.
Um, it, let's talk a little bit about the tangibles and the intangibles when it comes to this return, if you will, because, you know, every business is, you know, businesses are in business to make money, but we're talking about something that's more around the, for example, tangible returns. You know, like you're bringing people together to do a project for a nonprofit. We'll use, let's call it Habitat for Humanity, right? An organization like that, or one that builds homes, because there's lots of them. Rebuilding, I believe you had mentioned something about rebuilding Alexandria. Talk a little bit about those returns, tangible or intangible, that really help that organization.
Oh, sure. And I think your example of like Habitat for Humanity, or working with, you know, providing shelter, right? We are in the sheltering business to a certain extent, I think. You know, and one of my first jobs fresh out of college was working for a publicly traded REIT, and, you know, I think they're probably a Fortune 100 company by this point, called Avalon Bay Communities here in where I live in Northern Virginia.
A
And
little company.
little small startup, you know, mom and pop, but it's a fantastic organization. And, you know, when I was there, and still to this day, I mean, they build unequivocally beautiful, you know, apartment developments for people in high barrier to entry cities. And right in our backyard, there was an organization that's similar to Habitat for Humanity that was called Rebuilding Alexandria, and they were identifying underprivileged, at-risk um, uh, families and single mothers that had substandard housing, and so they were going and buying or renovating homes, and they sought volunteers as well as cash infusions to help support that mission. And so what we did at Avalon Bay was we actually organized cross-functional departments, people that were on different teams, to spend weekends at a time going into these homes and literally, you know, fixing things up. So your construction guy was or gal was like the king of the castle because they actually knew how to like renovate stuff,
Yeah.
things together. Me, on the other hand, who's not so crafty with the hands, I think I was going off and getting coffee and donuts and just making sure, telling jokes, making sure everyone was adequately,
Hydrated and fed.
right. We're all caretaking in our own ways. But that was such a fantastic, and especially for being fresh out of college and being so new to working at a real company. It was so invaluable to me because I was working right next to the one of the biggest developers at our organization, right? Like someone who I never would have been able to get FaceTime with any other place, and here I am just shooting the breeze with who is Chris? What does Chris like to do? Why are you here? And these were intangible benefits that helped out our organization because I got to know my coworkers in different departments that I didn't normally mix with on a daily basis. And that helped me when we brought that back to the office, like, I don't want to say like I suddenly prioritized that project a little bit more, but it certainly made me feel a lot better about who I was working with, and definitely, um, without a fact, benefited my job satisfaction,
Yeah.
improved my performance. Those were tangible benefits.
Mm-hmm.
The company as a whole was able to reduce, their tax basis by donating time, resources, money, materials to support it. I think,
Which in return helped your morale. It helped your morale, your employee engagement. You already were satisfied. You mentioned employee satisfaction, but it is absolutely a morale booster when you're engaging with someone that you work alongside in a different realm, because you can learn about that other person and bond about what you're doing in that moment. So it's a win on both sides. On top of the fact that if you're doing these things out in public, there's a possibility for talent, a talent and retaining, the talent,
yeah.
attraction and retaining the talent as well.
And it should say,
So I definitely understand that side.
And I should say this, and this is most important, beyond just what happened to me and about my organization, there was a woman and her children that got a safe,
Yeah.
clean, well-constructed home to live in, right? And that's the most important.
Yeah.
That's why, that was the best part of all of that effort right there, was the actual impact that we made in the community.
And that's how you also add to your, not add, but it's a part of your why, a part of your purpose. You're showing, the organization as a whole is showing and really showing that culture, that company culture, will stand out. So
yeah, and I think that's just like a life thing, right? Like I think like you look at a lot of studies, especially post-COVID, like we've become fascinated as a society with why do certain people live as long as they do, right? And we look at blue zones and we look at diets and, but also the evidence shows that connectivity and being of service to others has a very important role in not just the quality of your work, but the quality of your life, right? And so like for me, and it's taken me, years of getting over selfishness and being terminally unique, as I like to say, to understand that like when I'm actually doing something that benefits something else and I'm not thinking about myself, I'm being selfless, that's when the magic occurs. And that's when I am the happiest that I can possibly be, when I'm putting other people's priorities first, right? And there's always a balance, like there's a safety, there's a nice balance that needs to be acquired there. But I think when you take that individual aspect of it and flip it to an organizational standpoint and say, like, when an organization is thinking beyond itself and is as a whole working to help others that it is a part of, I think there's a health benefit to that as well.
Yeah.
And that also goes into kind of my second thought in this, and on the tangible and the intangibles of community service, which is this is a great opportunity for organizations to break down barriers that exist that are hurting their ability to do their business.
Yeah.
And I can give you a perfect example of that, which is being in the housing market, working for numerous developers. There's always a fine line of especially in city and suburban formats of pro development versus anti development, right? Like you're
Hmm.
coming in, maybe you're tearing down a building that meant something to a lot of people, or there's this fear that you're going to bring in
Big
group
business.
people that don't belong in this or
Yeah.
community, whatever that anti-development mentality might be, right?
Yeah.
Well, finding charitable good causes for a community is a great way to create alignment amongst your many stakeholders. And I think community organizers are certainly a stakeholder in the development business as well as just in the property management business.
Yeah.
You know, local government agencies and government officials are a stakeholder. Your lenders, your suppliers, your residents, let's not forget them, right? Your
Yeah.
investors, your clients, all of these groups, they have interests, but they also have a community service initiatives as well, right? And if you don't have, like, I'll give you a perfect example at Gates Hudson, but a fantastic property management group that's here in the Mid Atlantic. I had the opportunity of working for them for 9 years, and we didn't really, we for a long time we didn't really have a one clearly defined organization, that charitable group that we supported. And one of our biggest clients, Federal Capital Partners, their chairman sat on the board of the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Washington.
Hmm.
It was very near. Lacey grew up in Martinsburg, West Virginia, and he spent his time at the Boys and Girls Club growing up. It was a foundation of his upbringing that benefited him and helped him ultimately become the person that he grew into. And he shared this with us, and and he brought us to the Boys and Girls Club. We saw the kids, we saw the impact that it had in their lives, and we were like, how could we not,
Not. Yeah.
how could we not help? Like, how could we not get involved in this, right? And so that was something that from our organization, that was something where there were facilities that needed repair at the Boys and Girls Club. That was a great way for our construction services team to get involved and
Give back.
literally
Yeah.
renovate one of the rooms, like the STEM. I think it was the STEM room, the science, technology, engineering, math room. I think I got that right. And if someone fact check me if I don't have that right, but like renovate that room for those kids. It was a great way for me as a marketer to get involved in the marketing committee and help them try to find ways to further reach their target fundraising goals and to articulate their value proposition to others that were also thinking about donating to the right cause, right? So it was something that we could all find a way to like kind of latch onto. And that was something that helped us with our relationship with FCP as well.
Yeah.
It helped us with community organizers who said, you're just another property management group that doesn't care about the community that you're in. No, we do. Here's an organization that means a lot to us. That's active in our community. That's doing good for others. And honestly, it helped us attract other civic minded, good hearted people that were like,
Yeah.
oh, that's cool. That's what you're doing. That's the type of organization that I want to work for.
Like, it's like-minded. It definitely attracts like-minded people, other like-minded organizations, and you're building your brand awareness when companies do that. That is definitely a tangible, the brand awareness. People don't understand that the visibility on brand awareness when you're doing um, organizational when you're community service projects within your organization, helps that. So you it spreads, so like Susie Q that's doing those things, and she's going back to, after she finishes a project, or say you build a home, or you help with a like the Boys and Girls Club, and that those individuals that have been a part of that, they go back and they tell their friends, their family, that's building that brand awareness that the organization can see in the future.
Yeah, and I think, like, I think magic happens when alignment is created amongst multiple stakeholders, right? And like
Mhm.
when there is a goal that as an organization you want to achieve, but you clearly lay out and communicate what everybody's role is in achieving that goal, but you also outline how everybody benefits by you hitting that goal,
Mhm.
right? And finding an alignment from the resident, from the suppliers, from the employees that work on site, from the employees that work in the corporate office, from the ownership groups, from the clients, from the investors, from the lenders. If you can find a way to articulate how everybody wins by achieving that goal, you're in the Hall of Fame. People get it. Now they want to contribute to that, right?
Yeah.
And I think like community service is can absolutely sit at the center of that, which is bring together people with different interests, with different perspectives, right? And having them all participate in something that you're exchanging ideas, you're joking, you got the big guy over here getting you coffee and getting McDonald's breakfast sandwiches in the morning so that people much smarter than me can actually do the work, like whatever that might be, whatever that might
Yeah.
look like, right? But that helps break down these barriers that we all have, that all organizations have, and all different community self-interest groups have, right? This is something that you can feel good about doing, and work with others of different perspectives and different mindsets to achieve. And that's a good net positive in my opinion.
Absolutely. Do you would you say that the organizations in the past that you've been involved with, well, so they give you the day off to go, build something or fix something. Is that easier, better? What have you found in your experience that you liked, the actual go doing, or for someone, like me who's juggling my life, my mom's life, and, the real world, that I might just want to donate, right? Like
Right.
cash is king sometimes, when you can't give that time. And I basically work from home. So for those who don't have that time, what have
Yeah.
you seen? Is it
Yeah, everybody's
better?
everybody's different, and it's a
Yeah.
very personal, and it can be a very personal thing, right? Community service and picking an organization and picking a cause that's really close, near, and dear to you, right? My wife is a cancer survivor, for example,
Mm.
right? And so it's very important for us every year to support the Sarcoma Foundation of America, which is a rare type of cancer that she has. So we do put a lot of our resources, our time, and our money, frankly, towards
Mhm.
towards that cause, and that's going to be completely different than somebody else who maybe it had a form of carcinoma, right? And so I don't think there's a one size fits all approach when it comes to this, and I think you see that with the different ways that organizations participate. So
Yeah.
the earlier example I gave, that was one example of we pick a bunch of people at our company and they all together go to this site and they do on this same set of days this activity. That's one way to do it. I think for me, that was great when I was a really young employee and I was looking for that social engagement. I was looking for that, and I still am, frankly,
Yeah.
these days.
Yeah.
There are other groups that there are ways through your HRIS system to be able to make a monetary donation on a recurring basis or on a one-time basis that automatically comes out of your paycheck. And I think you may perhaps be able to reap the charitable benefits of that when it comes to tax season. And
Yeah.
there are others that just say, you know what, here's 8 to 40 hours a year that you can have, that you can go donate to your time or your money or whatever it might be to a 501c3 that you choose, and we'll give you that
Yeah.
time off, right? And that's a gift as
That
well.
that paid time off, right? That
Paid
they're
time,
matching. Yeah.
paid time off. Yeah, absolutely. And so I don't think there's any one way that is better. I think everybody has different needs and has different differences in their ability to give, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that, right? But I think like organizations that perhaps maybe do a little bit of all three can make even larger impacts and just in just the general sense of doing good for our society.
Yeah. Definitely giving the employees the option is key, because everybody especially after COVID, I know that even though I worked from home pre-COVID, but because of COVID and being isolated in those 3 months that the government shutdown or state shutdown, um, I find myself, I want to have things outside of my office, of my work from home office. I want projects. I want to see people, maybe not on an everyday basis, but I definitely want those options to be able to collaborate with people. And collaborating on a community service project is even better because it fills your soul at the same time. You're not just you're being selfless, like you said earlier, and not selfish with your time. So I think having, getting with your HR and figuring out a way, even if you're the person that's getting it, started, that, if they're not doing that, there's some way you can definitely figure out the smallest organization that's, like some staples in every community is any kind of food bank, uh, homeless, um, food drive. No, I said that one. Sorry. Clothing drive, like any kind of kids, back to school projects. Those sort of food and product service drives, things of that sort that maybe you can do quite easily without having. There, see, that's technology for you. When I thought I turned my phone volume off and it didn't happen.
Yeah, that's the Sarcoma Foundation of America giving you a call saying, "Hey, keep
Yeah,
us in
say,
mind.
hey, what's
Keep
going
us in
on
mind
here?
this
Yeah,
this giving season." Right.
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So no, I think giving people the option and giving them some ideas on how to get that started. Like it is, if you just look around, you just walk outside your office or walk outside your apartment building and look and see what in your community needs a little bit of help,
Right,
right?
and I think giving people choice is a great thing because I think like a counter example to what I just gave you that could actually have the opposite intended effect of what you want to have is
Mm.
me being the head of an organization, me saying, okay, because the Sarcoma Foundation of America is very important to me, therefore
Everybody
it should
must.
be important to all of you, right?
Everybody, yeah,
And so
that's
everybody just donate, a couple $100 every paycheck, and
yeah.
right, everything will be just gravy. Like that, that has like the counter impact that you want to have. And I think like the organizations that do give some autonomy to their, they pick a couple good causes, and maybe those are the events that you do your on-site, cross-functional group time, spend those. That's fantastic. But I think giving employees some choice and some free will and determining what means well to them is really important as well too.
Yeah, free will. We all want to have those options, those choices, and you know, getting with those higher ups. Maybe it's going to take you out there that if your organization doesn't have this in place, maybe it just takes sparking that project, that community service project, I should say, um, the first one to get the ball rolling,
Yeah.
right? It definitely, thinking of others, it feeds the soul. So really digging in to figuring out what around you can help make better. So
Yeah, and I think
it's important.
from an organizational standpoint too, giving people the ability to find causes that are near and dear to them, that helps enter in certain causes to go into the rotation for next year for your organization, right? If you have
Hmm.
a team member that documents and shares with their coworkers and with their organization the time they spent that one Wednesday out of the month, and in December, at the food bank, that could be a story that other people will want to get involved with, and that's a great opportunity for you, the next year to have a larger impact as an organization on.
Yeah, brand awareness. It
Yeah.
it brings in dollars. It has a positive impact on your customers, loyalty, and eventually sales. So those are all tangible, but it's having access to new markets and new business opportunities. So I know companies are in business to make money, those that are for profit. So, but you can still do good along the lines by becoming aligned with a community service project in your area, that everybody can get behind, whether it be tangibly or intangibly.
Absolutely.
So for the sake of time, because we try to keep everybody, keep this into the 30-minute window, is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap this up, Steve?
No, I think if anybody, if anybody's listening right now, I hope there are, just, hopefully use this time as opportunity to think of like, be a little retrospective of like, and I'm doing it myself right now, which is, today and tomorrow, what can I do that will benefit someone else? What is something that I can do that will benefit the community that I'm within? And I think, if we all do a little bit more of that, this world, no matter what goes on outside of our control that we don't like, but if we focus on the things that we do control and our ability to make a positive impact in other people's lives, I think it makes this world a little bit nicer to live in.
Very well stated. And you can start, it's Thanksgiving next week, so it's definitely the time to be thankful, but to give back, and paying it forward or giving to others that you know have a little bit less than you. It's always, or a lot less than you. It definitely fills your soul around the holidays. It should fill it all year round, but sometimes it's easier to find those projects during the holidays than if instead of them, unless it's just going to slap you in the face, which sometimes they do. They come about like that, but it's definitely something that feeds the soul. So
Well said.
yeah, I appreciate you joining me and having this conversation. That is definitely something that more organizations we're seeing are really starting to take that, not lightly, and really start to dig in. So we're excited to see that.
Most a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. And thank you to everyone. Next week we will be live. No, Stephanie Ayler is up next. I'm not sure if it's next week or the following, but just stay tuned, folks. I will put the post out. And again, we appreciate you joining us. If you watch us on the replay, just put #replay where you watch us from. If you have a question for either Steve or myself, just tag us and we'll be sure to get to it. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. I had to have somebody remind me of what day of the week it was. Sometimes that occurs. But I appreciate you all very much, and I appreciate you, Steve, and I hope you have a very happy holiday, Thanksgiving, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you. You too, Kimberly.
Oh.